Okay, everybody, we're back at the Ideagen Global Leadership Summit 2025. We have another incredible interview as we inch toward the closing bell ceremony. I'd like to invite up Bergen Morehouse, Executive Director of HOSA, Future Health Professionals. Bergen, welcome. And Ria Mohan, International President of HOSA, Future Health Professionals. Ria, welcome.
Thank you.
And so here we are.
Here we are.
On the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. We have the only organization, pre-post-secondary, that is all healthcare on the planet, which is the pipeline of our nation's future health professionals, HOSA. Incredible diversity in the pipeline. We've built, incredible pipelines into all of the allied health professions. And you two are leading the way right now. No pressure. And so I'd like to ask you, what is HOSA, Ria, for our global audience?
Absolutely. HOSA is an international student-led organization made up of student leaders who are really looking to empower the future of health. And we do this through a variety of ways. We have competitive events, scholarships, internships, job shadowing opportunities, and really just finding ways to expose our student leaders into different avenues of health so that they can really see themselves as confident change makers through any sector of health. And we do that through a variety of ways in HOSA, and we're really fortunate to be here to be connecting with so many visionary leaders who are helping us with this mission.
And so, Bergen, you're a newly minted executive director. My gosh, and along with that, I believe that, leaders stand on the shoulders of those that preceded them often. But you need the courage to do things, maybe change, do things that, you move in a different direction or whatever it may be. Now you have this pipeline, there's 3 million alumni. Is that about right?
Yeah, 3 million alumni out there.
Since 1976. What do you see? You've just taken over the organization as executive director. What's your vision for the future?
I think HOSA has a really unique opportunity right now to really impact the healthcare workforce pipeline. We know that we hear from industry, where are we finding the talent? Where are people coming from? How do we recruit them? How do we develop them? And we know the shortages in healthcare, not just in physicians, but across all allied health fields. There are shortages today. There are shortages when you look at the projections 5, 10 years down the road. And HOSA is that solution. And like Ria said, we are developing students from middle school all the way up through college. And not only are we teaching them those technical skills and those clinical skills that they need to succeed in the industry, but we're teaching them the professional skills. It's, again, what industry is telling us. It's the leadership. It's the teamwork. It's the communication skills. We're helping develop really, really good people like Ria who are going to fill that talent pipeline.
And that's the important piece, is to think about how you're aligning with industry. And here's the other startling thing that maybe a lot of the people in our global audience don't know, which is the organization's almost 50 years old. 50 years. And I've been in the room when you all have been telling the story. And you're telling the story and you say, yeah, we have high school students that are being taught leadership skills, by the way. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And they're going into healthcare. And I remember early on, several years ago, corporates would say, well, high school, what are we going to do with these high school? It's like we need people right now. But now they're looking for middle schoolers. These companies have figured out that, my gosh, you've got to grab their attention. They've got to grab your attention so much sooner. Is that what you're seeing amongst your peers?
100%. I think a lot of our student leaders are looking toward mentors, and so our middle schoolers are looking toward our high school students. Our high school students are looking toward our post-secondary collegiate division. And so starting younger, we're seeing that a lot of students are looking toward wanting to launch their careers in a way where they're following the footsteps of high school mentors, of post-secondary collegiate mentors, of our alumni. And being able to continue that is just such a fulfilling journey, and one that we're seeing across all membership divisions.
And here's what's startling about Ria. You don't see her talking from a phone. She's actually looking at me when I'm engaging with her. And there's 299,999 other HOSA students that are being taught the same skills. They're called leadership skills. So Peter Cuneo, who spoke earlier, his concerns will be allayed by the fact that HOSA is trying to change that paradigm with leadership. And so Bergen, talk a little bit about leadership and why leadership is so important to HOSA.
Oh, it's key. I mean, it's one of our foundational pillars. And again, it's those skills that, you say intangible, right? But they're extremely tangible and they're extremely needed. And it's what industry is looking for, and it's what has sometimes been missing. And so when we create platforms for our students to showcase their strengths, showcase their skills, and we recognize them for that, it really helps develop that self-confidence in them. And then it doesn't matter. We, of course, want them to go into health from our perspective, but if they don't, they're going to fill your talent pipeline. And so whatever path they go down, we feel like we've made an impact because of that leadership component.
And so Ria, what gave you the courage to join HOSA? Like, it took a moment, right? You had to say, well, I want to join this organization. How did you even get involved? And now you're the international president.
Absolutely.
No pressure. In countries all across the world. HOSA's in China,
Right.
South Korea, Germany. I know so many, Canada, right? So many countries.
This is a really good question, and one that I've thought about a lot as I'm reflecting on my HOSA journey. Growing up, I've definitely had the privilege of learning from leaders who view their roles not as service for others, but rather service with others, right? And that's something that I observed when I first walked into Juanita High School, where I was, walking in as a 9th grader to my first HOSA meeting, and I watched these leaders stand shoulder to shoulder with these members, and they didn't elevate themselves on a pedestal. They were there to serve alongside them, and that's something that I wanted to be a part of, and that's something that I wanted to embody, and something that the International Executive Council embodies. And so that's really where my HOSA journey started, is that in that classroom where I was able to witness collaboration, and I wanted to feel a part of that community.
And I think it's important to note as well that while we welcome Bergen as the executive director, this is a student-led, student-run organization. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. The heartbeat of HOSA really is our membership, right? As you talked about how HOSA is across the world, I could reflect on my HOSA journey and think about every life-changing experience that I've had, traveling the world and going to conferences and speaking like this. But at the end of the day, it's not being on stage, it's not being under the bright lights that makes HOSA HOSA. It's the over 330,000 members who each have a unique story, who each have a unique strength to share. And being a student-led organization, that means that every student has something unique to bring to the table, right? There's no one else in this world who's better at being yourself than you. And each of those students brings something magical and special to the table that we want to hear and we want to see. And that's what makes HOSA so magical, is that all of us are able to bring something different, and that's why we have the leaders that we do.
And that's an important piece, is that with where I'm in Washington, and we have the the dialogue and discourse and things that happen. And what I love about HOSA is that the leadership models that. I mean, it's all about helping others, and it's inherent within healthcare, right, to be a servant leader and all of that. But I think if we could take a few nuggets from what HOSA does to empower these 330,000 students, as you said, I think it would really, truly change the world. Can you imagine, like, bring a HOSA program to the halls of Congress or wherever it may be, and talk about, arguing the issue, but then, moving on. It's a better way to function.
We say it all the time. We have a conference, an annual conference every year in June, and it brings 15,000 people just like Ria together. And so if you ever are questioning what the future looks like, if you're losing that little bit of hope, you need that energy, come to a conference, get our students in front of industry, in front of people, or in front of leaders, and it definitely will change your mind. I can
And next
guarantee.
year, Indianapolis, right?
Indianapolis, yeah, for our 50th.
So that'll be the 50th anniversary, and that is true. Because I believe that hope lives within HOSA, because when you're concerned about leadership, your concerns are allayed by meeting folks like yourself, Ria. And so let's talk about that a little bit deeper. What does leadership mean to you? Like, what are the key elements that you see? Like, if I didn't have this one element, is it courage? All the things we've talked about, which one is most important to you?
Absolutely. To me, leadership is never about being the loudest in the room. I think leadership is more so grounded in listening to the stories of others and making space to really see people and as human beings. It's easy to see us all in suits and maybe, you're not making that space to hear someone, but leadership is really about listening first And I was recently reminded of this in DC at our annual Washington Leadership Conference, which is where student leaders from across the country will gather to advocate for HOSA on the Hill and engage with our National Service Project and attend all of these workshops. But at the end of the day, leadership is what took place after those workshops, when members would come up to us and ask us questions, and I could be like, hey, tell me more about you. What are your lived experiences? What does your HOSA journey look like? What can I do for you? And those genuine, meaningful conversations is what I really, truly value about leadership, and being able to form those connections with people, because those relationships extend way past the halls of that conference. Those are relationships that continue way past the event, and that's what makes leadership in HOSA so meaningful.
Just incredible. So Bergen, how about you? So you've run competitive events, which, why don't you describe competitive events, and then I'll ask you a question beyond that.
Sure, yes. Competitive events is one component that we have within HOSA. It's a platform that we use to allow students to explore various areas in healthcare, to find their passion and find their purpose. Maybe they think they want to start out being a nurse and they try clinical nursing, and next thing they know they can't touch blood, right? So we want them somewhere else. So it's really the platform that we use just to help them explore careers in health.
And so the same question to you. So what is that magical element of leadership that you believe without doesn't allow for it?
Yeah, I think you have to bring people along with you. You can't do it alone, and developing the people around you is key. It's not about what you're doing in the position, but it's about how you can empower and encourage others in their own leadership. And I think we see that in HOSA, and we do a really good job of that in HOSA. We set up or give opportunities to our students to run for local chapter officer positions and local state officer positions, where they can have opportunities like this at the local level to develop those skills. So really making it not about you in the title as leader, but really developing others and bringing people along with you.
How about international expansion? So what countries, I don't expect you to know all of them, but what countries is HOSA in now, and where is it going? Is it going to take over the world? I mean, which wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah.
So we are international. China and Canada have our largest membership. There's about 10,000 members internationally between those two associations. But we have groups, just this week we had our first chapter start in Turkey, Korea, Italy, Germany. So yeah, it's starting to grow, and of course we're excited about that because it's global. Healthcare is global, leadership is global, and we want to be part of that. What
about the diversity in the pipeline?
Absolutely. I just wanted to also touch on how this past March, I had the opportunity to travel to the China HOSA National Leadership Conference, and just wanted to speak on that diversity and being able to connect with students who may not have known English, or there was a language barrier there, but we spoke that universal language of loving healthcare and of wanting to make a happier and healthier world for everyone. So I was able to witness, how their culture may be different and how the way they approach healthcare may be different, but we were all united in this same common thread of wanting to make a happier, more healthier world. And I think we all have something different to bring to the table, so the diversity there is showcased through the different lenses that we view healthcare through.
And so I know you're helping and working with partners, companies, the world's largest companies, startups. They come to you, you go to them. I mean, it's kind of an iterative process. And so how do if I'm in HOSA, how do I get exposed to any of the allied health? You work with, help create a pipeline into all of the allied health professions, but how does that even work? Like, how does that happen?
So we're really based at the local level. I think that's where the power of our organization lies. Yes, we have over 3 million alumni. We have 300,000 students that Ria represents this year, but the power of those connections that are taking place in the classroom between an advisor, as we call them, the classroom teacher, and one of our HOSA members, that's where that career exploration, where that inspiration is happening. We hear stories all the time. It wasn't until my HOSA advisor told me they believed in me, or when my advisor told me that I could be a state officer, I could be the next Ria, that's when it clicked. So really that's happening at the local level, and then we have this power of our relationships and partnerships and people behind it to support what they're doing day to day.
And I think it's important to also note that HOSA is not an after-school program. It's part of the in-school health science curriculum, right? And so these advisors are in the schools. So these companies and organizations that work with you all, it's very difficult. How do you begin to get into a school system, in Kentucky or wherever you are? Yeah. With HOSA, in a partnership with HOSA, you're able to actually reach into the schools and both from an input standpoint and an output standpoint to educate, the students, the future health professionals. And I'd like to close with, what is your call to action, Bergen?
Our call to action would be to get involved with youth. Of course, we'd love it if you get involved with HOSA, but whatever that looks like in your industry or your area, you get involved with youth. It's going to impact your organization, they're going to make a difference, and you're going to feel inspired.
Ria, final word.
Just piggyback off what Bergen said, I would just encourage you all to include youth empowerment in your conversations. This is kind of reminding me of the international theme of HOSA this year, which is Champions of Change. And I just want to reiterate that youth are part of that. We are the champions of change. We've listened to such inspiring youth leaders here today, and they are testimonials to how they are powering the future and how they are going to create change that we should all be a part of. And so I would just encourage you to include us in your conversations.
And how do we find out more about HOSA?
HOSA.org, and come to Indy in June to see 15,000 of
What are
them.
the dates? Trick question.
June 17th to June 20th.
There you go, 2026. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.